Now that the Trump transition team has started this process of deporting our families and friends, firing federal workers, taking away our health care, rolling back our protections, including some of our loan forgiveness, it's time for us on the left, the resistance, to also prepare because we are bumping into the holidays, which means a lot of time is going to be taking away with meeting with family and friends. And we have less than a month or so to prepare for this really punitive administration that we know is coming down the pike. So in this video, I'm going to share 4 actionable steps that you and all of us who did not vote for Donald Trump, including 74 million of us who voted for Kamala Harris, can do to prepare ourselves for the second Trump term. And then I'm going to focus on 2 vulnerable groups that have been the focus of targets: federal workers and undocumented, which is about 11 million of them. So if you know people in those groups, or you're a federal worker yourself, or you know undocumented people, I want you to share this video with them so they can know specific steps. So you're interested in that? Let's go. So first, for everyone, as a companion to the work I'm doing here on YouTube, on TikTok, on Threads, and soon Instagram, I put together a companion document, which is a manual and guide to surviving the second Trump presidency. You can find it at outlasting47.com. Download it. And so that's the document I'm going to use to follow. Generally, for everyone, the first thing you need to do is know your rights. So whether it's your rights as an employee working for the federal government, your First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, just your rights generally. In outlasting47.com, I put together some information to follow, and there are hyperlinks and resources where you can go and learn more information, including your Schedule C rights as a federal employee, for example. So know your rights. That's the first thing. So knowing is half the battle. A lot of what he's doing creates stress and anxiety, and that's by design. And I firmly believe that some of the stress and anxiety can be reduced if you know. Knowing is half the battle. It's the fear of the unknown that creates the anxiety. I know in my house personally, after the election, we just stopped watching cable news. We haven't even turned it back on. But because of the work I do here, I'm trying to be there for everyone. I'm trying to use my knowledge and background as a federal regulatory attorney in the past, as a journalist, as an educator. I taught at Georgetown University, at University of Maryland College of Journalism, and I'm the content creator, just using my knowledge as being a polywonk and being a former political columnist to share information. What I know here in this guide is a companion to it, because I'm going to keep tracking it, so you track it. So that's the second thing you need to do, is join organizations or agencies that are tracking this. If you're not a member of the Federal Government Employees Union, go ahead and join. If you are, there are underground communities that let people know, for example, when the ICE truck's going around. So you need to identify, source out where those sources are. Outlasting47.com has some of them. Join those groups, donate to their causes, sign up for their trackers so they let you know the media, the news, so you can know and be aware. So that's the second thing. After you find out the information, is join advocacy groups and organizations that are making sure the resistance, the revolution, are, that you're kept up to speed. So that's the second thing that you need to do. The third thing you need to do, all of this, again, like I said, is stress and anxiety inducing. You need to minimize your stress by only identifying 1 or 2 topics that you really care about and just following those. Because whether it's an environment, whether it's energy, whether it's civil rights, whether it's LGBTQI rights, whether it's immigrant rights, whether it's education, dismantling, all the different topics and areas in which the Trump administration, his Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and task force by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Congress, all the ways they're trying to disrupt and blow up the United States and just essentially destroy lives for a small fraction of the population, because the trans community represent less than 1% of the population. The immigrants are like 3.5% of the population. They're wreaking terror and havoc, targeting a small portion of people, but yet their means, the way they're going to do it, is actually going to disrupt millions of more Americans who are not part of those target organizations and communities. So it's stress-inducing by design. So you minimize it by just identifying 1 or 2 issues, and then take 1 day out of the week to track these. You don't necessarily have to take the trackers, even if they send you information, 1 day a week just to consume all the documents. And if you get the outlasting47.com, there's a tracker where you can take notes and be aware. So you can share that knowledge with other people in your sphere of influence who may not know. That's the third thing, is be mindful of your stress and anxiety. The fourth thing is the hardest thing to do for everyone, because it's really taking actionable activity into preparing yourself. If you have the resources, I know some people said they're going to pack up and be digital nomads from another country for 4 years. That's great if you have the ability to do that. Most people don't. If you can afford an attorney, to hire an employment attorney, for example, a retainer, just in case your job is in jeopardy, you can use that attorney, do that. But a lot of people can't afford that. That's cost prohibitive. The next best thing you can do is just prepare. A general power of attorney, you can get that online. I have a document that I sell actually, which is family legal documents. It's a packet of documents, includes the general power of attorney, guardianship for parents. If you're undocumented, you want to make sure someone to be there to take care of your kids. God forbid you get detained or deported. So there are different things you can do financially to set yourself up, prepare a nest egg, to prepare for the unthinkable. So it's not like you don't know it's possible. It happened last time in 4 years. A lot of people's lives are destroyed. They cut a lot of VA jobs from low-level VA jobs, but those folks got their job back when Biden came in office, but nonetheless, it was disruptive to their lives. So prepare financially for the disruption. Those are general things you need. For the two vulnerable groups, so federal employees, I mentioned before, join the Federal Employees Union organization, be a card-carrying, dues-paying member, so you get all the protections that come from them. So do that. The second thing you need to do, get your employee manual, know your Schedule C rights. The third thing you need to do is watch your social media, especially if you work for the executive. And there's been instances the last term where people's private social media accounts were screenshot by someone, all your friends are friends, and sharing it and people getting in trouble. So mind your social media. I wouldn't say scrub your social media, but you do what's right for you. If you've seen you've been railing against them because you thought Harris was going to win, you said a lot of things, and you work for the federal government, you want to be mindful of that sort of stuff because it's the organization, even though it's against the law to retaliate, we know that the head of this whole operation is a criminal himself. So they don't really necessarily abide by the law. So you can't expect them to, as to you, your rights anyway. So mind your social media. And then because they're looking for excuses, during last term, they fired a lot of low-level VA employees for things like not coming in on time, using the leave policy. So don't abuse the leave policy. Don't give them an excuse to fire you. So whatever you're doing, mind your P's and Q's while you're in play. You can do that. And then the other thing is be prepared. Be prepared for the worst, and you can't go wrong. So that is in the outlasting.com. I have a checklist of specific things just for federal workers. Engage in professional development. That's really big, to the extent that you have resources and abilities to get like trainings or get certifications. Get all of them, because you just never know. So if, for example, you are let go, you would have had that padded on your resume. So take advantage of any of those things that are available to you now. Sign up now. So those are for the federal government. Now for the immigrant population, undocumented immigrant population, the first thing you need to do, join the groups like I mentioned. It's going to be alerting you to when the ICE trucks are around, for example. The second thing you need to do, be mindful, take a mental note of who is aware of your status, whether it's a friend, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a coworker, not just you, but the people in your house, because they can snitch. So you just make a mental note of who knows what. The third thing you need to do, like I mentioned in the previous video, is prepare, especially if you have U.S. citizens children. Get their passports now, because there's been talk of actually removing whole families. So if your child right now is a birthright citizen, they still have that. So they can't take that away from them. So get their U.S. passport now. I mentioned the document I have. You don't have to use my document, which I'll put a link down below, but you can get it at jjgat.com/family legal. Get a guardianship letter, so you can assign someone formally to take care of your children just in case you're removed. And 2, a power of attorney, and handle all your finances. Someone else to manage your finances, your banking, have access to it, because a lot of financial institutions won't talk to you without that. So get a power of attorney for people in your family just to prepare for the worst. So those are the things that you can do if you're undocumented now, which is scary. But I hope these tools are useful. There's a case law tracker in it, and there's an example of the case law tracker, so you can see what it looks like to track the parties, know if there's a stay, meaning like a stay of execution, meaning like we're not going to put it in effect until it works its way through the litigation system. All those things are available in the tracker in the outlasting47.com document. Let's briefly go through the tracker. So at the bottom of the document, after you go through the tips and suggestions in the resource page, which lists the various different organizations and groups that are actually tracking the legislation and the litigation regarding different interest groups. So whether it's the education community, the environment, civil rights, workers' rights, immigrant rights, migrant rights, education, all the various different rollbacks that we anticipate, these groups are going to be tracking them. These groups are going to be looking at the specific litigation and legislation in Congress that's going to impact federal workers, for example. So it's a good idea. Go through that resource list that I have there and click the link and join those groups, sign up for their alerts, or just set up a tracker for yourself in Google Alerts to once in a while just to see what's going on. And you can use the back of this guide, which is a workbook workbook and a tracker to help you track the various different cases. So as I discuss them here, or you find out about them while watching the news or something comes up, you can grab your workbook and go fill it out, especially if it's something that's in particular interest to your topic area that you're concerned with. So the first one is the case name, which is the name, the agency or department that's impacted, maybe the Department of Education, the jurisdiction, so it may be in the lower court, the district court, the federal court, a state court, the U.S. Supreme Court. The parties involved, it's most likely going to be Donald Trump, or the agency name versus maybe Sierra Club, for example, if it's an environmental regulation. The key dates, so the filing date, there'll be a motion to dismiss, just dates so you can track it. The hearing date, if there's a hearing, some of it may be televised, or you may be able to see it online. Tracking the sources, so primary source, so they may be some organization that's specifically tracking the news related to it. So if once you identify that, write down their domain so you know where to go, because that specific agency or that specific website is tracking all the status. So it may not be something that the mainstream media is going to cover, but it may be an area that a specific group that's actually tracking it and following it. So you can write that down so you can know where easily to go to find out, to get updates, so you're not so you don't have to start fresh and Googling it. And then tracking the legal platform that it's on, the advocacy groups that's monitoring a case that's kind of related, this case status. And you may see this thing called stay, meaning like a stay of execution. You might have heard that in terms of criminal context when it's related to someone who is going to be, executed. A stay means that it would stop it. So it would either stop it from being enforced, or it allow it to continue while the litigation is going forward, or it may just say no longer going to stop it and suspend it until the litigation is over. And if it's something that's dangerous and harmful, that's a good thing. If it's something that's you need to have done, a stay can actually be harmful. So depending on what's being stopped, you want to be mindful of that and take note of that. The current ruling and outcome, the impact, like who's going to be impacted, and what's the status of that. So that's what the case tracker is for. And then for each month, starting like January, February, March, you can write down any key updates, and there's an area for notes. Now you can duplicate that form. There's about 4 entries, but if you want to, you can cut and paste and copy and make another one. I'm going to make this document editable at some point. And then after that, you have a workbook entry, which has a sample case, so you can see what it's sample. And then that's it. That's for the most part. That's the tracker. So that's just something. And as you hear me mention cases, you can go down and note it down in your notebook. So it's a companion to the work that I'm doing here on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, on TikTok if you're watching this on TikTok, on Threads if you're looking at it on Threads, or Instagram, wherever I'm posting this. It's also a way to support my channel, my work here. And this who needs to track, you think it's important, and they care about these issues, and they're concerned, and they have anxiety, to share the link with them. So it's a nominal cost. It's a licensing fee, and it supports my work. And with the license fee, it's going to be updatable. So as I get more information and new things, I'll update. With each update, you'll get an email letting you know it's been updated. So as I get more information, as other people share information that they have from their office I find can be helpful for the collective, I'll update the document with the new information, with the new insights, with the new case law, the new resources, or new legislation, whatever it is that's protecting. So, all right, thank you again for supporting the work and what I'm doing. Thanks again for supporting. Watch this playlist here where I put other videos related to this content. But right now, go check this out next.